Boom! Hello, everybody. So recently I got into these discussions on Eastern European politics on Mr. V's channel in his comments section. And of course, I then made a video about it, and I had some folks comment on that video, which I very much appreciate. I enjoy having these discussions. But why do I even care about Eastern European politics? I mean, I'm an American citizen. I own land here. I'm pretty goddamn comfortable. Well, originally I do come from Russia. Granted, I was 8 years old when I left, so I'm not the biggest expert on it, but I think I gathered enough about the culture and the history from while I was there, and also the things I learned from my grandmother and other, Russian expatriates when I was in the United States, to, have at least a little bit of a perspective on it. Then, of course, there was things that were thrust upon me by certain Russophile friends that are also interested in the region. For instance, I have one friend whose godfather is originally a Chetnik. Was a Chetnik, is originally a Chetnik. I don't know why I said that. But anyway, yeah. So I found out about the whole situation in Serbia and how much blatant propaganda there was surrounding all of that. And that, coupled with what I saw unfold in the Georgia conflict, kind of made me concerned. Because what seems to be happening, and my understanding of American politics, I think, is pretty good. Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex. McNamara talked about how the domino theory of warfare was bad. But basically, we have these economic interests that foment instability in certain regions, use a divide and conquer method, kind of stir up tribalism, and then use that chaos to basically set up whatever institution or system government that they want, which is malleable to them and not always good for the population. Now, I'm not going to claim that Russia and other countries don't pursue similar things, but right now, I think that it is the Western elites and the ones that claim to be representing American interests that are currently causing unnecessary tension and economic hardship in the region of Eastern Europe. One reason for this opinion of mine is, well, for instance, the Russians and the Germans want to exchange oil, but the Americans are, getting their knickers in a bunch about it. I don't know terribly much about that, but it's just an example. And in terms of the Ukraine situation, I've commented on it before. It shares a border with Russia, historically has a lot of commonalities. My great-grandfather came from Kiev, if what my family records show in terms of photographs and my grandmother's accounts and his surname mean anything. But yeah, so there's also, genetics and culture and heritage and Slavicness there, a certain kind of Slavicness that's shared. I'm not saying that we should have one state. By no means. Ukraine should be its own country. Of course it should be. But when you have people fomenting tensions with groups like the Azov Battalion and things, sometimes it comes to the question of border security, which is what I believe went on there. Am I going to say 100% that that's what happened? I'd like to, but you can never be 100% sure of things, so I'm open to people giving me information. But what happens instead of people giving information is people having these histrionic reactions, which is why I, looked over at the comment by the Georgian fellow under V's video, and it raised my eyebrow because it was so tribalistic, so SJW-ish. Because what SJWs do is they'll tear down monuments and historical things and just kind of really attack random bits of cultural bric-a-brac that they don't like because it came from a bad regime or a bad system or a bad way of doing things. And so when you're tearing down all this Soviet stuff, like getting rid of the 1 to 5 grading system, that's not really sticking it to communism or to anybody, because communism is really not around anymore. Furthermore, Stalin was Georgian. And given the conflict with Russia, what that Saakashvili was a part of, yeah, that's all really more anti-Russian sentiment. It's weaponized provincialism, just weird peasant pride, in my opinion. I'm trying to find a way to describe it that doesn't, because there probably are legitimate grievances that the Georgians would have, but it's not going to defend their culture by getting rid of something as moot as the 1 to 5 system. I don't think that the Russians are going into Georgia and, telling them to tear down their national monuments and to get rid of their language. By no means. I don't think there's a particular influx of Russians going to live in Georgia, because why would they? I'm sure Georgia is nice. But anyway, all of that aside, the personal reason in terms of, hey, what's in it for you, buddy, that I care about it, is I am a big proponent of Enlightenment values. My political position is that the United States Constitution is a good thing, should be defended, should be promoted, not violently at the barrel of a gun in terms of exporting it imperial style to other nations, but should be valued. And my perspective on the Constitution, as far as I understand it, as far as I understand the term, is originalist. As originalist as you can be in terms of interpreting a document that's several hundred years old and taking it to fit within a modern context. But you see, all of that is under threat by the same people that foment these crazy agendas all around the world. This military-industrial complex is one bit of it that Eisenhower warned us about, but it's also, it's just that if you poke the bear and if you get all these tribalistic tensions in Eastern Europe where there's a lot of bad blood going, especially during the hard economic times we're now entering globally, this is a powder keg, and all these roads and all this food and all these wonderful amenities that we have that make it possible to pursue an Enlightenment lifestyle, sort of Renaissance man lifestyle of learning music and talking about philosophy and having discussions and doing science and things of that ilk, will become way more difficult by several orders of magnitude. That little Maslow's hierarchy of needs doesn't just affect individuals; it affects the whole of the world in a macrocosmic, very, very macrocosmic way. So that's kind of how I got interested in these Eastern European politics and why I care about it and why I comment on it. Now to just move on to a different subject, because to fill up these videos somehow, I could talk about that, and I will talk about that more because I want to address all of the points that these folks are making. I'm not just going to toss them out because I disagree with a lot of what's said. I'm going to look at the links that have been sent me, look at the points, go over them, not necessarily even in an antagonistic way, just to kind of review the information. But that's going to take time, and I take care of this house, I take care of the elderly relative. So I work, granted part-time, but it is 5 days a week. So there's going to be a little bit of lag there, but I will get to it. Now to move on to the next topic I want to talk to you guys about is I was out there mowing the lawn, so listening to stuff in my headphones, and I heard this video come on of this dude analyzing the body language of Bob Lazar on the Joe Rogan podcast. So Bob Lazar is apparently this guy that worked in Area 51, or S whatever as he calls it, or it was close to Area 51. And this guy that does the body language analysis, he seemed kind of legit, because I kind of think that the body language analysis is bullshit. But he wasn't just kind of, he touched his nose there, therefore, he's lying, or, he didn't touch his nose, so he's not lying. He kind of seems to have a fairly decent system for it. And according to his analysis from most of the video that I listened to, it's about an hour long, Bob Lazar is telling the truth, which is some crazy, crazy stuff. If you have been over to my website, you know that I'm a writer, and I publish, various horror, science fiction-y type thrillery stories, and I'm very, very interested in this kind of stuff. So if there's any reality to it, that's friggin' crazy cool. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there for the interest of anybody who has, similar interests in that regard. But yeah, the next thing is you see this fanciful German hat behind me that I was wearing in my last video. So earlier today, I was also, as I was doing various chores around the house, listening to Peter Hitchens, the brother of Christopher Hitchens, talk about our weird response to COVID-19. And he talked about social courage. And I note that if you dress atypically, people will give you weird looks. And Gavin McInnes also has this concept of kind of building up a certain resilience, which is, I think, why the Proud Boys would punch people, right, in order to initiate them into their little club, because in order to talk about difficult subjects, you have to be able to roll with the punches and be uncomfortable. So one way of, getting used to being uncomfortable is looking strange. Now, here's why I find it noteworthy, the reactions that I got, why I find it worthy of mentioning when I went out in my funny German hat. It's this weird look of disgust and like, oh, I know how I'm supposed to behave and you're not behaving how you're supposed to behave. That the degree of it is completely out of bounds of anything rational, because especially in the context of the society we live in today, there's people out there with crazy multicolored hair, with piercings, one side of the head shaved. Women are walking around in these pants that show off their hoo-hoo, and there's yoga pants. And so if you just kind of look weirdly German one day, kind of Oktoberfestish, that's apparently very, very off-putting to some people. And I was out there just doing laundry for my granddad, running a chore for somebody else. I was contributing to the local economy because I walked over to pick up some damn burgers from the local pub to do takeout. And yeah, so I'm supporting a local business. And a lot of these people are like these more middle-aged, chubbier people, funnily enough. And I'm thinking, well, you're unhealthy. I'm here getting the sunshine, building up my immunity. And I pay property taxes on this house, which means that you're in a minivan. Yeah, so you probably have kids. I'm paying for your kids' education directly. It hurts every year. Now, obviously, I'm just getting a little bit microcosmic and dickish here, but yeah, the point of it is that tribalism is a problem. I think that's a form of tribalism that I just described, because there's a normal look that you're supposed to have, and the new normal is a very particular kind of hipstery weird, and in the case of women, very provocative sexually, which, I don't really mind. I'm not a prude by any means. I certainly appreciate it in some certain instances, something nice to look at, but I'm just saying, if propriety is the sentiment that seems to be aggrieved by my funny German hat, that's weird. I'm sorry, but that's, in the context of that society, of that situation, that is so fucking weird. Anyway, ramble over. Thanks so much for stopping by. My main website is fractaljournal.com, where you'll find stories, ideas, and more. I have myself some Twinings London tea over here I'm going to enjoy. And also, I don't know if I want to drink this today or drink this tomorrow, but St. Peter's Organic English Ale. Adios, everybody.